Welcome back, folks, to what's almost becoming the Luckfox channel. It's not, it's the SBC channel, and my name's not Platima, and I'm here today with a new product from Luckfox, obviously. They keep banging out awesome stuff. There's a reason that they send them to me, and it's because I like to dig into the specs and see what they can do. There's a reason I review them and use them, and it's because they generally work really well. For that same reason, I also stock them, if you weren't aware. And this is the new Luckfox Aura, which I do have in stock too. So today we're going to have a look at this because it's a little bit different from the other ones that they've done, and we'll tell you why. We're going to benchmark it, of course. We're going to look at how much power it draws. We're going to test out some of the features, and we're going to put it on the SBC tier list. I'm hoping it ranks well, but you never know because, as I said, they've done something different this time. Now, not as different as the next video about a Luckfox product that you're going to see soon, but still different. So hang around and let's get into it. Now, opening up the box, we have the product itself. We have some debug header connectors, which is pretty cool, so we don't have to reserve some of the GPIOs for that. We've got some big ass antennas with IPEX connectors, which is awesome if you are going to put it in a case. Now, on that note, since I do stock and sell these products, let me know if you want me to start 3D printing cases, because I've got a couple of different 3D printers and I could print some cases to be available to purchase with these products. Now, I've also got these antennas in stock as well, and I do have them in a different size if you want something smaller. And of course, it comes with a USB Type-C cable, Type A to C, and this is USB 2.0, so that's going to be your power cable. Let's have a look at the board though up close. It also had a nice amount of padding, which is always good to see. So here we go. If autofocus wants to get up to speed, there is the Luckfox Aura. So working our way around, if I use this antenna to poke at it, we have our Wi-Fi chip there. That's Wi-Fi 6 dual channel, so 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. You're not locked to just 2.4 anymore. External connectors there. It looks like you've got some eMMC there, some RAM there, and you've got an RV1126B in the middle. Now, this chip is, what was it? It's quad-core A53, so it's 64-bit, 1.6 gigahertz, and it's got a 3 TOPS NPU built in. So this is a really capable board for basic AI use as well. So if you're on Edge AI, even if you want to run OpenClaw on this, I'll probably do that because I reckon OpenClaw would run really well, or I might run Frigate, I'm not sure. I could run both with Docker. But with quad-core 64-bit, 1.6 gigahertz and 3 TOPS, that's plenty for basic object detection and recognition, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, that sort of stuff. Standard GPIOs. Over here, we've got 4 USB 2.0 ports on the side of it there. Come on, camera, you got this, there we go. And then we've got gigabit LAN, which is awesome to see. It's not 10100. With that, you've also got a PoE header under here, so you can use a standard PoE module to, hang this off your switch and not use external power. You've got dual MIPI DSI-2, dual MIPI CSI-2 quad lane camera connectors there. 4-pin 3.5mm, so you can connect your headphones or headset, including microphone and stereo speakers there. It does also have that onboard microphone. We've got a debug connector there. As I said, you can use these cables it comes with. And you've got an RTC battery connector, which is also excellent to see. Standard boot and reset buttons. You've got a USB 3.0 on the go port. So you've got 64-bit quad core, dual band Wi-Fi 6, gigabit networking, and USB 3.0. As I said, this is different. This is a full SBC now. Like it's missing HDMI. It does have MIPI DSI though. And honestly, this is probably meant more as a headless system. I think it'll be an excellent, excellent headless system, and that's what I intend to use it for. We've then got our USB 2.0 power connector. As I said, 4-lane MIPI DSI, so for a 4K display. On the back, we've got our Sarah audio connector there. The pinouts for that, if you do any audio stuff, are on their website. We have an unpopulated SPI flash spot, which is interesting, and TF card slot or SD card slot. So this is definitely interesting, and it's a little bit different. So the only thing, there's a few things that you can do with it, like the USB 3.0 means that it's going to be good for bulk external storage since you've only got eMMC or SD. But because you've got both of those, you could stick an SD card in here and use the eMMC in RAID 1. So you've got redundancy there as well. PoE and gigabit LAN and Wi-Fi 6 is going to make it good as a router board if you want to go down that route. Now there's no OpenWRT for it yet, but there is Buildroot and Debian 13, and both of them are very capable. It supports 4K encoding and decoding. So again, really, really good for camera use, whether you're going to be using cameras attached to it or if you want to run Frigate on there and take use of the RKNN capabilities Frigate has to, do some inference. The RTC battery connector definitely helps. So you'd probably want to use that if you are going to be doing anything camera related, because that's going to preserve your timestamps if there's any reboots and your network's down or anything like that. The onboard mic and the 3.5mm combined jack definitely have some use cases. It's not for everyone. But what I think is most awesome is that these start at about $50 US, which is incredible. So $50 US, you get the model with no eMMC and 2 gig of RAM, which is more than enough to get going. You can get 64 gig eMMC and 4 gig of RAM as well, which is what this one is. So I'm pretty bloody happy about that. And of course, I've got this in stock in Australia. So if you're nearby and want to get it from me, otherwise you can buy it directly from Luckfox in China. That is all personal preference. Now, there's a few little things that are worth knowing before we dive into this. The default baud rate is 1.5 million. So it's a little bit different to the others. It's not 1150-200, but it's up there, and that does make it faster for flashing images too. And they have instructions in their documentation. So if we jump over to their doco, which is loading here, they've got instructions for Linux, Mac, and Windows, including a tool for older version of Mac OS, which I think is really, really good. So obviously I've got the version here that comes with eMMC. So there might be an image on there, probably a Buildroot image. I can boot up to that first. To do so, I'll be connecting the debug headers and we can watch it boot live. And then we'll flash Debian to it, and that's what we'll test out and benchmark. I will have a look for Joshua Reich's images, see if there's any support there. We'll also look at if it supports power delivery instead of just fixed 5 volts and what the power consumption of it is. So without further ado, give me a tick, I'll sort that out and we'll get back to it. Before I cut back to what I've set up, I do want to thank our favorite sponsor, PCBWay though. These guys continue to support the channel. They are really helpful, great people that love the community, they love creators. So using the link below, you get $5 off your first order, which means if you're just doing prototype PCBs, you only pay shipping. It also really helps to show that you're supporting this channel and that it's worth them continuing to sponsor me. So I'd hugely appreciate it if you did. It costs nothing to sign up. And if you're not into PCBs, they do an insane amount of CNC machining and 3D printing. They also have a module store, so you can just go and buy cool toys if you need tools, if you need parts, anything like that. They've got a huge range of, I need something like that, huge range of all sorts of cool stuff. So thank you PCBWay for continuing to support this channel and for putting up these contests and giving stuff away for free to the community to support that engineering and maker space. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you to you guys as well for supporting PCBWay, supporting me. Now, back to the channel. All right, so now this is all ready to go. And of course we could connect with ADB. I've shown that before, but I thought I'd do serial since it has this dedicated serial connection. I'm using a CP2104 here that it's just how I use it. Don't worry about it, don't ask questions. And following the instructions that are on the website, if you have a look over here, it's pretty straightforward. You've just got ground, TX, and RX to those colors. You're flipping the connection because senders receive and vice versa. Now, the other thing is I've connected these Wi-Fi antennas. These are IPEX or UFL connectors. I can't remember what the right term is. When you're connecting them, it's really good to be careful because it's really easy to break them off the board. And then of course I've screwed the antennas on there. And lastly, I've got my good old Finersi FMB58 here, so we'll be able to see how much power it's drawing. To connect to it though, I'm going to use PuTTY. So I've got that launched here and we'll want to go serial. COM7 on this computer. I just went into device manager to check that there. And I know this is the text is a little bit big for you right now, so a little bit small, but I've set PuTTY to bigger. So when we connect that, we're pretty much all good to go. Now what I can do, if I get my cameras right, so I'll go like that. All right, I think that's a pretty good setup. So we've got our documentation down here. We can see what's going on just above it, and over here we've got PuTTY. So I'll move this down a bit. We can have a look at the power that it's drawing as well. And then I'm going to plug this in. Now I have had some instances where PuTTY crashes, as it has here. Don't know why, but when I restart the session, it works fine. It could be something to do with the massively, massively long cable I've got here. It is honestly like 2 or 3 meters long, but it was the only one I had nearby. And look at that. It is booted in 10 seconds. So that's going to be a Buildroot build. It's going to be fairly out of the box. Like it's not going to be refined or anything like that. So if you go root, Luckfox, there we go. We're in 6.1 kernel. Yeah, Buildroot, you can get down to like 2 or 3 seconds, but by default, they want to be able to do everything in here. So they give you a pretty big Buildroot image, and of course you can customize it using the SDK. They've got all of these instructions about how to add libraries, remove libraries, things like that. So getting back over here, we have 4 gig of RAM, which is very nice. 64 gig, and that has auto expanded. And we've already had a look at uname. There's like, honestly, there's not really that much worth looking at on first boot. It boots really quickly though, so it's quite nice to see. So there's one thing there that takes a little while and hangs, but that's all right. I'm not particularly bothered by that. Now, what we want to do is get this Debian image. So to flash Debian, got to do it using the RKDev tool. Let me get that set up and I'll show you how that works. All right, I was of course completely wrong. You actually need SoC Toolkit for the eMMC. The RKDev tool is for flashing SD cards. No, that's SD disk tool. RKDev tool is, God, it varies, doesn't it? For flashing the SPI flash, I know at least. I can't remember which is which at this point, but we've got it connected. So I've got power going in here, and then we've got our data connection. And what we need to do now is hold boot and reset, and then let boot go again. And you can also optionally hold boot whilst you plug power in. I just find that easiest. Now, if we launch SoC Toolkit, you can just hit OK there. I've got a loader device. If you don't have that appear, you probably haven't done this before. You just need to download and install their drivers. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. But then once you've got this here, you can pretty much load up the files and flash it. We'll double check what their instructions have down here. So yeah, hit that. Search path, download, reset. All right, let's grab that. Here is my fresh Debian extracted folder. You can't actually see anything there, but it has got the folder and it's picked up an environment in there. So we just go, yes, we want to load that. And then we hit download. No checked item. Well, there we go. That would help. Download. So what it does first is it pushes a tiny little download binary across and runs that. That is just for flashing it essentially. Then that gives us access to flash all of the logical block addresses, the eMMC that's on board from this tool. The biggest one's going to be the rootfs, and of course it's automatically going to reset when that's done. That's going to be Debian fully installed. The image was only about 1 gig, and then we can boot it up and check that out as well. Now, when we do check it out, of course, we'll see if the power consumption was any different. We are going to put a little fan on it when we benchmark it, and we'll join the Wi-Fi just to make sure that everything's working as we want. Hold tight. I'll let this finish. We'll come back to it shortly. Now, just in case, actually, one really important thing, if you haven't done it yet, don't forget to like and subscribe, because only like 13% of you have liked and subscribed. It's ridiculous. Sorry, 13% have subscribed. It's ridiculous, especially if you identify as female. I've got like no female followers apparently. So make sure you subscribe to boost those numbers a bit, get some representation in there, but let me know in the comments. Love to hear from female engineers that are underrepresented in the community, because I know a lot of them, but apparently you don't engage in my videos, or maybe you're not there. Maybe it's all men. Anyway, I'll let this flash. I'll be back shortly. All right, that is all finished flashing. So what we're going to want to do is close that down, and we'll want to get PuTTY back. So let's maximize this and restart the session. So there's nothing on there now. We're going to plug it in. PuTTY will probably crash again, but then we'll just quickly restart it. As you can see, I've also put a fan on here so that when we benchmark it, it's got a bit more honest chance. Let's see what happens. Is that? Yep, that's all on. Instant putty crash. Restart. And off she goes. So we have Debian 13 on this, which I'm very excited about. A lot of vendors have been lagging with their compatibility. That was a pretty quick boot. 13 seconds for a full distribution is really nice. The login by default is root and Luckfox, or Luckfox and Luckfox. I can never remember which. Did I typo both of those? Luckfox, Luckfox. I'm going to have to RTFM. I'd already closed it. Documentation there. So first login says Aura. Bloody hell. Come on, guys. Woo! There we go. There is one minor issue with the journal. That's probably from me ripping the power out before. But otherwise, that's awesome. Has it got NeoFetch? No. Got a 6.1 kernel there, which is fantastic. We've got our 4 gig of RAM. It's using 100 meg of RAM. Geez, that is good. I wish Windows could do that. It is auto expanded to fill the partition and everything looks happy. Debian 13, Trixie 13.2. So what we want to do now is join the Wi-Fi. Let's basically just copy and paste their instructions. So we will need to do that. So we'll just go sudo I. There we go. It can see everything. It's seeing our 5 gigahertz and our 2.4 gigahertz. It's seeing WPA2 and WPA3, which is excellent. Now we'll want to connect to Pi-Fi password, the most secure password in the world. If you ever see that, you probably figure out where I live, but shouldn't have said that. Awesome. We've got internet. We've got working repos. All right, they've defaulted to China. I keep telling them about this. It should use the global repos, which should automatically select your local repo around, but that's all working. I'm quite excited. Let's see. Let's cancel that. I don't actually care at the moment. Just what sort of speed we get on this. Copy link address, wget. I've got about 200 megabit here. All right, I'm going to have to do the update and upgrade because the certificates need to be updated. So after that, I will speed test it. This is the Luckfox Aura though. This is what I'm finding a rather impressive device so far. It's quad-core 64-bit at 1.6 gigahertz. It's got you can't even see my hand. It's got USB 3.0, it's got gigabit networking, it supports PoE, it's got Wi-Fi 6 dual band and dual channel it looks like. It's got eMMC or SD card, it's got 3 TOPS NPU included, RTC battery connector, does 4K encoding and decoding, it's in stock, it's got up-to-date enough Debian and Buildroot images, like that's, you're getting better than 5.15 that we keep seeing, and it just works out of the box really, really well. You get a product that you don't even have to flash if you get it with the eMMC. There is a functioning OS already on there. We can also see even this Debian image is only drawing 2 watts maximum. You've got a variety of ways to connect to it, so you can always connect to it through SSH. You've got serial and you've got ADB. Once you've got it on your network, you can install any sort of cockpit or any tools like that you might want to use on it. And it's probably going to run, for me, Frigate, I think, because Frigate supports RKNN inference for the cameras. And that's going to be my use case. But what we do need to do is actually come back over here and put it on the SBC tier list. So if you haven't been following along, I've been running this for some time now, as you can see, and we rate them based on the score that they get. I'm going to have to write this down. I'll pull up the notepad to write it in. We've got a couple of criteria. The first one is price and availability. So this starts at $50 US. For me, I find that phenomenal. I'm going to give price and availability a 5 stars because it's available in Australia, it's available in China, and it's really well priced. We've then got our features and specs. So I just went over all of that actually. For $50, the specs and features you're getting are really good. We're not going to be testing the GPU. It may or may not work. I'd have to have a look through the documentation. I'd expect there might be some limitations around hardware acceleration, which is quite normal. But everything else as far as, you know, connectivity, form factor, RTC, NPU, 4K encoding, MIPI DSI and CSI, PoE, it's like Luckfox have been watching my videos and built this to tick all of those. So again, it's getting a 5. Next up, we've got software and images. So variations, there's only 2, Buildroot or Debian. The SDK is available though. It's a fairly recent kernel, but there's no third-party images. So for that, I'm going to give it a 3. Then we've got performance and reliability. So general use, it works straight away. I had no issues with that. I had no crashes. I just had PuTTY, which is my computer. It uses it's got good Wi-Fi strength. It supports all the protocols I wanted to use. It's got graphical support from the terminal. The documentation seemed quite easy to use as well. So, documentation I shouldn't rate there. So I'm going to I'll probably give that a 4. The reason that I'm giving that a 4 really is just that this isn't an on-the-go port. So you have to use 2 cables it seems, although you might not. You really might not. Let's have a look back at the documentation here. I might not have needed to use 2 cables. No, the documentation says that's 5-volt power only. So a little bit for that. But otherwise, general use has been perfectly fine. So I'm really happy with that, and I'll give that a 4. Documentation and support. So easy to navigate, clear language, Mac, Windows, and Linux instructions. No GitHub that I could see there, and the files were in Google Drive, which I'm not particularly happy about. So they'll get another 4 there. Then the last thing it comes down to is going to be the accessories and compatibility. So it uses USB-C for power. I'm happy with that. It supported power delivery when I tried that. PoE is an option, supports cameras. It's got 2 different storage options on board, plus you've got USB 3, so you could use an external fast storage. No HDMI, but it does support MIPI DSI display. Given it's the standard GPIO headers, it's going to support most of your third-party connections as well, you know, your I2C and SPI devices on there. And there's no cases for it that I've seen, but as I said, if you want cases, let me know, because I can knock one up and start 3D printing them to be available. So accessories and compatibility, I'll give that one a 5. So adding that all up, we've got, what's that, 15, 19, 23, 27. Now, if we go back to the SBC tier list, 27 gives it a clear S, which is excellent. It lost a couple of points. It lost 3 points all up. Did I do that right? No, I didn't. 26. It lost 4 points all up, but that still gives it an S class. So this is the latest S class device that I've tested. That goes next to Dragon Q6A. Was it Q7A? Q6A that we tested last time. The Luckfox Pico Zero and a few other things like the ARM Siege 7. I'm starting to trip over my words here. So we did leave that updating. Hopefully that's all done. And again, we can try this. Certificate, app install CA certificates. Whoa. I still can't spell certificates. Oh, there you go. If you get that issue, that's what it is. Now, I would shave a point off them for this because it should have CA certificates installed out of the box. I will let Luckfox know so they can update their images moving forward, because that would be a bit of a limitation. But that would still give them 25 points, which still gives them an S class. That is S for super special. Now that certificates are installed, give me my bloody download. There we go. I'm getting some decent speed. So the Wi-Fi on this thing is pretty solid. Like my WAN throughput is only going to be about 4 or 5 meg per second on this. So, you know, that's getting 50, 60 megabit without an issue. And it showed that it was picking up 270 megabit before. Folks, that is the Luckfox Aura unboxed. Tech specs gone over. we're yet to benchmark it, reviewed, flashed, explored, and diagnosed some little issues. So I hope that helps you get through it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but also don't forget to thank PCBWay, if you would be so kind, because they continue to sponsor this channel. If you weren't aware as well, I do also have Patreon. You can join as a patron. So thank you to all of the patrons that continue to support me. There's new ones joining every week, well, every month, something like that. And it's hugely appreciated. You guys pay for things like, you know, the BPI RV2 that came out of my own pocket. Even, you know, some of the mini PCs. I don't get sent all of this for free. I have to buy it myself sometimes. So that really helps. And if you're ever curious, that I do have review terms. So when I do get sent stuff for free, I've got these really specific terms that they have to agree to, which basically says you don't get to review it and you don't get to say what I say. So I like to keep this nice and honest where I can. I have these in stock, as I discussed. If you would like one, link below to go and get them. Depending on how quickly they sell, they might disappear quickly, but I'll always get more stock in. Thank you again to all of your comments for your continued support. I'll add the benchmark details below, including how much power she draws, and I'll catch you hopefully next week. Have a good one.